Hello beauty caterpillars, and today we are doing another book talk video. I believe this is book talk number 10 or book club, not book talk. Sorry, I keep saying book talk because I'm so used to TikToks, book talks. But anyways, book club number 10. I have not been reading books for the past like 4 or 5 months. I just got back into reading again. But these are ones I read prior. I just didn't have a chance to make this video yet because I wanted to kind of get a collection of books that I really enjoyed. And a lot of these are Emily Henry books that we're going to be talking about today. So I don't actually have the physical books here because a lot of them I read either audiobook versions or I download them onto my Kobo. So I don't actually have the physical book to show you. But I will insert a picture of the cover for you so at least you know kind of like what the book looks like and what I'm talking about and who it's by, because sometimes I either forget the author's names or can't pronounce the author's names and I don't want to butcher them, so I just put them up on the screen. The first one we're going to be talking about is Happy Place. So that book entails two characters. One is named, is it Harriet? Yeah, Harriet and Wynne. And they have been together since, I think, college, I believe. And they've been together for like 8 or 9 years, and every year them and their friend group go on this vacation to one of their other friends, who I'm blanking on the name, cottage, and they spend a week there normally. And this year they said it was just going to be just a girls trip, so she wasn't expecting Wynne to be there. And the big shocker here is, the big twist of the story is, their friends do not know that this couple has broken up. They broke up 6 months ago. And their best friends do not know because they've kind of like, they live really far away from each other now. They're all kind of like spread out everywhere, and once a year they come together and go on this vacation together at their friend's summer home, because their friend this year is actually selling the summer home. Like her dad is anyway. So they have one last, everyone's going to be together and then we're selling the home, and who knows if we ever go back on vacation again, because they're just all finding it so hard with all their different lives to kind of come back together every year and take this holiday at the same time every year. So she wasn't expecting Wynne to be there. She thought it was going to be a only girls only trip and stuff, so she was like, perfect, I'm not going to have to see Wynne. When they get there, they arrive and find out that the boys are in fact there and Wynne is in fact coming. And so now the two of them have to fake it for the rest of the week, act like they're still in love because they haven't told their friends. And they were actually engaged too, but they since called off the engagement. But again, their friends do not know any of this. You find out further in the book why they called off the engagement, what happened, all this stuff. Harriet is a surgical resident, and then I don't know what Wynne is doing, I can't remember. I want to say he had to move back home to help his mom who was sick or something. But it wasn't abnormal for the two of them to arrive separately because of her work schedule and stuff has all been crazy, and they know that he's been down a lot helping his mom. They just don't know the extent of everything with their relationship. They knew the two of them were long distance for a while, but they just assumed since they hadn't heard anything, this couple was still together. And so they have to fake it for a week. Well, they're at this vacation together with their best friends. And so, eventually it does come out that the two of them aren't together, and they kind of like, go through this whole journey, and maybe they fall back in love, maybe they don't, who knows? You'll have to read the book to find out. But it is quite a good read. I mean, Emily Henry books are really good. She is one of my favorite authors. I used to really like the Nicholas Sparks books, but after reading a bunch of his, I'm just like, they're just all the same. So Emily Henry is now probably my favorite author, I would say. Excuse me, I have hiccups. The next book is Beach Read, and it takes place in this little town. This girl goes and buys this beach house, I think her dad's beach house or something. Anyways, her name is January, and then we've got Augustus, who is her next door neighbor. And January is going through a writer's block. She is trying her best to, come up with a new story. Her publisher's kind of like been down her throat being like, you need to get a book, a story, and like a lot of people go away and like rent these summer homes to go like write, so you should go and do that, to kind of like escape the hustle and bustle of your life. So she does that. She finds a little cute home. I think either that or like it was her dad's summer home or something. I can't fully remember the details. So anyways, I can't find it. Anyway, I think it's either she bought or rented a beach house or something like that, or I don't know. Anyway, she lives in this beach house right now. And she kind of just moved there as to be, a quaint little town, something quiet, to get there by the water to kind of help get her writer's block. And the guy next door is named Augustus, and she doesn't know this at the time, but he is also a novelist. He's also a writer too. And like, she's a really rom-com writer, and he's like, I kill off everybody in my book, kind of like Great American History Novel or something. I don't know, he's like more of a fiction writer, but he like kills all his cast members and stuff like that. And so the two of them are kind of rivals at the beginning. They don't really like each other. She's kind of pissed off at him because he had a party the one night. It was like all this loud music. But eventually they kind of start talking, and they both find out that they're writers, and they're both having writer's block. And so I think it was Augustus's idea to challenge January to write a book she's never kind of write his style of book, and he is going to try to write a romance novel. And so they kind of both go on all these field trips together, kind of showing each other what would be a good idea for kind of like a murder mystery, I think, book style. I can't really remember what he writes. But I know he kills off like all his characters in his books and stuff like that or something. I don't know. Anyways, like he tries to get her to like, they go on field trips and she'll like plan all these like super rom-com-y dates. And I remember one time I think they go through like an old jail or something, or an old museum, some sort of military base or something. I remember they sleep in tents somewhere. And challenge each other to the summer to write this book. And like her publisher and her author, like her publicist is like kind of hounding her for the next great book because she did so well in her other ones that like readers really want another story, and she's expected to have this book done by this certain time, and she's got writer's block. And kind of the love story unfolds between the two of these. Surprise, surprise, because this is a romance novel. Most of the books I talk about are romance novels, but you kind of get to watch the two of the stories of enemies to lovers, which is always fun. So the next book, who's also by Henry, is People We Meet on Vacation. It entails Poppy and Alex, and Poppy is this travel journalist, and so she usually travels for her job. She like has a blog or something, and I think she works for a blog company too, where she like posts her travel vlogs and writes articles about like the best places to travel and all these things, and like doing them on a budget, doing it high end. And usually every year, her and her best friend Alex go on a trip together, except they haven't spoken in the last 2 years. They've been friends since college. Again, they met in college. A lot of these books take place, like, they meet in college and, like, whatever happens. But they've been friends for, like, a decade, and then they haven't spoken in 2 years. And so she finally reaches out to him because they went on one trip together, and they don't tell you until the end of the book what happened in this trip that like made the two of them kind of like just split from each other and never talked again for 2 years. And she, I guess, emails Alex or calls him up, and he eventually agrees to going on this trip with her. And it's a last minute trip, and I think she ends up like having to do it out of her own pocket because the company doesn't think that this destination is like truly like a rare hidden gem thing, so she has to like prove it on her own and like pay for all the expenses and everything, even though she's broke, because normally all her trips are like lavish and paid by the company. And so she's trying to give Alex that same experience, but like on her budget, because she was trying to do like a really nice trip on a budget. So she's kind of trying to do it through her own pocket, and Alex thinks the company is paying for it, and the company is not paying for it. And so, the two of them have this whole, like, drama, and she's trying to, like, figure out why he's still so mad at her and kind of, like, update each other on what happened in the past 2 years since they haven't talked to each other. And they kind of beat around the bush as to what happened and don't really, like, get down into the nitty-gritty of, like, why they stopped talking. until a lot later in the book. Like, Poppy's not good, and Alex is not good about talking about, either of them are not good about talking about their feelings. And I think Alex has a cat named Flannery O'Connor, and I think that is just a great name, too. Alex is a high school teacher at this high school where they both, like, high school he went to high school to, I think, in the same, like, little town he grew up in. Anyways, it's a really good read, but it kind of talks about all her trips, too, and kind of goes back to all their adventures that they've had over the past 10 years, and kind of like a little bit back, flashback to college, flashback forward. So that's always fun, you know, when it flashes back to other time periods, you kind of see them on other trips and stuff, and like kind of how they interact and everything like that. And Poppy's definitely more of like a free spirit, go with the wind, go with the wild, and Alex is definitely more like this rigid, like must follow the rules. So it's just kind of interesting seeing the two of them interact and everything like that. So the next one is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Like I said, this is one that's going to be very Emily Henry centric. So Funny Story is about Daphne and Peter, and you know, Peter is her fiance, and she always loves the way he tells the story of how the two of them met, up until the point he realizes he's in love with his childhood best friend Petra. And Petra has a boyfriend named Miles, and coincidentally enough, so Petra also has been in love with Miles for years as well too. And so the two of them, Peter and Petra, end up, like, Peter calls off the engagement after he goes on his bachelorette party and makes out with Petra, and they both realize they've been in love with each other this entire time and they want to be together. And so she ends up dumping Miles, and somehow Daphne and Miles end up being roommates because Daphne needs a place to live and Miles needs a roommate to help pay the rent. So the two of them end up living together and kind of dealing with the aftermath and the heartbreak, and they're both kind of recovering from their, you know, people they thought they were going to spend the rest of their lives with. Like, I think Miles was planning on proposing to Petra too, but then again, she broke his heart, went off with her childhood best friend, and now those two people are together, Peter and Petra. And kind of just dealing with the aftermath and the wake, and them trying to, like, Miles and Daphne trying to figure out what they both want out in life, and dealing with heartbreak, and kind of, you know, recovering from a breakup together. And the two of them also kind of, like, they're not friends before, they didn't really, like, interact with much. They knew each other, like, obviously because Petra was Peter's best friend, they did interact a little bit, but, like, you know, always as, like, the couples and never, like, one-on-one. So it's just interesting to see, like, Daphne and Miles' relationship change and grow and evolve over time too. And also Daphne figuring out what she wants, because she kind of just followed Peter and did whatever Peter wanted to do, and now she's got this opportunity to move and go be a librarian elsewhere because her dream job came up. And so she's trying to, like, figure out what she wants now out of life, now that, like, her whole goal and idea was to have a family and make a family with Peter, and now that's just been, like, ripped out because he just realized suddenly one drunken night that he's in love with Petra. So and, like, Daphne always thought there was something between the two of them, but he kept being like, no, there's nothing, she's just my best friend, like, we've just known each other since childhood, like, our families are friends, but, like, now I would never, you know, I'm not into Petra. Even though he was into Petra. And then I think Miles' sister ends up living with them for a time too, and Miles has a really bad toxic relationship with his family as well. And just kind of, you know, watching everything evolve, watching how Miles and Daphne evolve into a relationship themselves. Actually, those two end up getting together too. Well, first it's faking it. Because they got Petra and Peter get engaged as well. So Miles and Daphne both got sent an RSVP with a guest. And they were like, well, this is going to be really awkward to go to my ex-fiance and my ex-girlfriend's wedding. And then I think one of them accidentally tells somebody that they've moved on and they've met someone else anyways. So then Daphne and Miles RSVP together. They say they're going. It like somehow slips out because I think Petra like came over to get something or get her stuff after they broke up, and she was saying something about like how Harper and Miles are together now or something. I don't know. They end up having to like fake date and like to Peter and Petra's wedding and pretend that they're in love with each other. So that's an interesting, tidbit to watch that all unfold and everything like that. And at one point, Peter wants Daphne back, and Daphne has to choose between, do I go back to Peter or do I, go and forge what I want to do on my own? So, because of course, someone always tries to come lining back in because, it's not as perfect as I thought it was kind of situation. Like, oh, I thought it was going to just be this amazing, effortless, puppy dog love and it's going to last forever. And then, like, the reality sets in and you're like, oh, actually, maybe I don't like this person. I just, like, thought I wanted them and pined after them for years. That's quite interesting to watch that all unfold. And the last book is The Honey Don't List, and it's by Christina Lauren, and it involves Rusty and Melissa Tripp. These guys are this like home improvement like wonder team. They have this show that they do and this store that they've built up in their small town, and they're kind of like they have their own home design show and they go around and building all these different designs, and they have all these product lines and stuff like that and designers. And Carrie's assistant, or not, Melissa's assistant Carrie has been with Carrie, Melissa and Doug Tripp for years, and she's and then Rusty also hires, I keep saying Doug, it's not Doug. Rusty hires an assistant himself because he fired his last one because he kept sleeping with them all. To show his wife Melissa hired James, who is like this engineer guy, to kind of help build with the set and stuff like that. And he's supposed to kind of also be Rusty's assistant as well, but they were like, oh, we just need you to be his assistant for like a couple months, but you also be the engineer on this project too to help us like build our design show. Well, they go on like book tour or something as well. And during the entire book tour, it's very obvious that Melissa and Doug do not, why do I keep saying Doug? I think Melissa and Doug is like a kid's toys or something. Melissa and Rusty no longer love each other, but they have to fake it on the camera. But as soon as the camera like turns off and as soon as they go back on it, because they're going on tour, their tour bus, because they're trying to like promote their show and stuff like that, their show and their book, because they just came out with this marriage advice book like that Melissa wrote, talking about like how to keep the perfect marriage basically and how like to keep the spark alive, even though it's all a lie because Melissa and Rusty do not like each other anymore. They like put on a really good show like in front of the camera and everything like that, and then after that it's like nope, they absolutely hate each other. Like Rusty's been cheating on Melissa for years, and Carrie has actually been doing, she's this assistant and she's been dealing with all these medical issues, and so she can't leave Melissa and Rusty because she needs the health insurance because they have given her such good health insurance because she's worked with them since she was like 16 at their store when it was just like this tiny little like design store or like home decor store or something like that. And she finds out that Carrie has been basically doing everything for Melissa for the past how many ever decades that she's been, like 10 years she's been with Melissa and Rusty. Like basically since she was 20 she's been doing all the design and everything, but Melissa takes full credit for everything. She comes up with the designs and then Rusty's supposed to build whatever she makes. But secretly behind this all has been Carrie, and Melissa has kind of been blackmailing Carrie into staying quiet and not coming clean because Carrie can't leave because she needs health insurance so bad. And then James kind of stumbles into this situation and like kind of just expects Carrie to take care of everything. He's like, well, I'm not actually supposed to be Rusty's assistant. I'm supposed to be the engineer. like on this show that we're doing, and James kind of sees how badly Melissa treats Carrie, and like Carrie's kind of just so grateful that they've even ever given her a chance at anything, and she just feels like she's nothing without Melissa. So she feels like she can't venture out on her own, and James is kind of trying to like help her with that. And at one point, the four of them end up getting quarantined in a house in their like lake house or something, because they're so worried that like it's going to come out that their book is a lie, and Rusty's been cheating on Melissa for years, and so they don't want Melissa to find out about this aftermath. So they've gone to like a toxic detox or like a digital detox for like a couple of months or a month or something. Well, they wait to film. Well, the show airs and her book comes out. She just needs like a digital detox from like everything because it's chaotic. And someone ends up setting the house on fire that they're staying at. So that's quite, it's interesting. Like James and Carrie don't really like each other. They don't really see eye to eye either. Like Carrie's really annoyed with James being there because he's just like pushing everything on Carrie. Because he's like, you're the assistant, you do everything. And she's like, no, you're Rusty's assistant. He's like, no, I'm this engineer guy. And that's a big thing with him, is he's like, no, I'm this engineer. I'm not this. You know, I was promised this job. And, you know, the last book we're going to talk about is The Nanny. I forget who wrote this book, but Cassie is this girl who's going to school for some sort of childhood education. I think like child physio person or something. She does something with kids. I can't fully remember. Or some sort of kids medical, like a pediatric nurse or something like that. I don't know. She's doing something with children and medical. I can't fully remember what she's doing. Not that it's a super big deal. But she is desperate for money. She used to have an OnlyFans account. And she since deleted it because the guy she was basically falling in love with ghosted her like a year ago. And she was supposed to meet up with him and just never did. And so she deleted her account because she was just too heartbroken about it, because she really liked this guy and he just like left her, and she was actually planning on stopping the OnlyFans when she met this guy. And so then she's super desperate for money. She can't get a job, and she needs like, I think she's got another year of school left, and she's like almost done her program. And she ends up getting this job listing for a nanny for this guy named Aiden. And he is this head chef at this really fancy restaurant. And so he needs a full-time nanny for his daughter, because the lady had the girl's mom passed away last year. And he's had a really hard time keeping a nanny, and so he's like live-in nanny. He's going to give her a place to live, and she's going to live there full time, and he's like super flexible about her school hours and everything like that. And like he can kind of, because she needs to be at school during the like most of her schooling is done online, but she has to go in like every like once a month or something on the weekends to do some sort of like labs. And so he's like, okay, I can, accommodate you that once a month. I can just, block that time off of work. And then while my daughter's in school, you can do your schoolwork and then kind of just take care of her till I get home from work, because I work really late hours because I'm this head chef at this restaurant. And so also too, Aiden's sister, like in-law, like it's not his wife because they weren't married. And like they got together really quickly, and like they end up,